It was a hot summer afternoon, and there were not many people in the park. The city dwellers preferred to relax by the water, but many of them were at work during the day. The young guy, Paul, was also working hard. He was sweeping the paths, trimming bushes, and removing trash. A young girl in an expensive outfit was walking slowly down the alley. She was pretty but sad. She limped a little on one leg and wiped her tears with a handkerchief. Two young men were sitting on a bench nearby. Seeing the crying girl, they shouted, "Look! What a beauty! Her legs are so long and sexy, though one is shorter than the other, but it doesn't matter. The main thing is that her skirt is short and her body is attractive. We can have some fun. Hey, sweetheart, come over here." The girl looked back frightened and walked faster, but the rude men quickly caught up and stopped her. One of them was filming everything while the other was mocking the girl. "Hey, where are you going? You can't escape your fate. Are you crying because you have no one to relax with? We'll help you." The girl panicked and tried to escape. "What do you want? Let me go, help." But the guys only laughed and mocked their victim. "Stop screaming, we're trying to make a cool video." Paul couldn't stand it anymore, so he threw the broom away and shouted to the rascals, "Why are you bothering the girl? Don't you have anything better to do? Get away from her, or you'll regret it." The guys immediately turned their attention to the janitor, and one of them shouted, "Hey, sweetie, look what a defender you've got. I guess he just climbed out of a dumpster. Dude, get out of here." They didn't even think about letting the girl go. Instead, they continued to mock her, tried to take off her skirt, and kept filming it all. Paul ran up, attacked them, and shouted to the girl, "Run!" A fight broke out, and the forces were clearly not equal. Fortunately, Paul was a good fighter. He beat up both villains and crushed their phones. But he was injured too. His lip was smashed, and there was a big bruise under his eye, but the bullies escaped. The girl had been hiding nearby all this time, and when the scoundrels ran away, she rushed to help her savior. She helped him up, pulled wet wipes from her purse, began to wipe the blood from his face, and said, "Thank you so much. You saved me. I was so scared. We need to treat your wounds." "Okay, I'm going to the pharmacy. Wait for me here." The guy felt embarrassed because he really liked this girl. "No need to go to the pharmacy. My wounds will heal quickly. By the way, my name is Paul. I work as a janitor in this park." The girl introduced herself as Olivia. She enjoyed talking to the guy. Paul wanted to make this girl like him. "I hate it when someone hurts such beautiful girls. Why were you so sad? Did someone hurt you? Just tell me, I'll sort it out." Olivia wanted to thank the guy, bought him a coffee, sighed, and began her story. "It's not that simple. My dad is a banker and my mom died a long time ago. My dad won't let me be friends with ordinary guys and girls. He says I deserve better. So he found me a suitable fiancé, Arthur. His dad is a prosecutor, so Arthur is very brazen. He knows that he can do whatever he wants and will not be punished even for the most horrible deeds. We were dating. His parents and my dad were already waiting for us to get married. My dad doesn't understand me at all. I told him 100 times that I don't love Arthur, that he behaves disgustingly, that nothing will work out with him. All Arthur does is have fun and go to nightclubs. He can even flirt with other girls in front of me. When I complained to him and asked him not to act like that, he started humiliating me in front of everyone. Then he would give me flowers and act as if nothing had happened. Today, we were going to go on a barbecue, but I had some unexpected things to do at the university and was an hour late. When I got there, Arthur was already kissing my friend Julia. I couldn't stand it. We had a fight, and I left. That's why I cried. Do you have a girlfriend? Where do you live? Tell me about yourself. Paul felt embarrassed. He had nothing to be proud of, but he wouldn't lie to Olivia. I grew up in an orphanage. I don't remember my mom well. She died when I was 5 years old. That's why I grew up in an orphanage. I quickly realized that if you don't know how to stand up for yourself, people will always hurt you. I learned to fight, but stronger boys often offended me. It was useless to complain to the caregivers because everyone was absolutely indifferent to orphans. I suffered there for a long time, and when I turned 16, I couldn't stand it anymore and ran away. I lived on the street for a few months, but it turned out to be even worse. Then I went to my aunt out of desperation. She visited me sometimes at the orphanage, but she could not adopt me because she was very ill. However, when she saw me on the doorstep of her house, she showed mercy and sheltered me. so I stayed at Aunt Susan's house. It was very hard for us to survive because her small pension was not even enough for medicine. I didn't want to cause her problems, so I tried to earn money on my own. First, I worked at a construction site, and then I got a job at this park. I guess you think I'm pathetic. Probably, you are right. Aunt Susan asked me to go back to the orphanage to get my ID, but I didn't want to go there. 6 months ago, my aunt died. I took care of her until the last minute. Because she was the only dear person to me, I miss her very much. Now I still live in her shabby house. I know I have to get my ID renewed. I'm afraid that without an ID, they'll take this house away from me, and I'll be homeless again. You probably don't even want to talk to me now. Olivia objected. Don't say that. I'm so sick of these insolent rich guys around me. I realize they only want my father's money, not me. Besides my limp, I feel so bad about it. But you're different. You're so kind and helpful. It's not your fault that you're poor. So, don't worry, let's be friends. Paul was very pleased, and from that day on, he and Olivia saw each other often. At first, they just walked in the park and talked for a long time. It turned out that even though they were very different, their interests and ideas about life were similar. Olivia told Paul about her favorite writers and gave the guy some books. One day, the guy decided to invite Olivia to his house. It happened unexpectedly. They were walking in the park when suddenly a heavy rain started. It was not far from Paul's house, so he suggested, "Let's go to my place. When the rain stops, I'll walk you home." Olivia was sure that now they would come to a dirty, troubled neighborhood where only alcoholics and criminals lived. However, she was pleasantly surprised. It was a clean, modest neighborhood with small but nice houses. Paul's house was indeed old and shabby, but clean and cozy. Paul suggested she change into a dry shirt since her blouse was soaked. Olivia didn't even realize how it happened. They kissed, Paul hugged her gently, and they ended up in bed. Now, they were not just friends, they were dating. Of course, both of them realized that Olivia's father would never accept their love, and most likely, there would be a tremendous scandal. They tried not to think about that right now. They just loved each other. 3 months passed, and suddenly something happened that no one expected. Olivia got pregnant. She was terrified. "Paul, I can't believe it. What am I supposed to do now? My dad will be furious. How could this happen? It's too early for us to think about children." Paul tried to comfort his fiancée. "Darling, don't be silly. That's what true happiness is. I understand that you are afraid of your father's anger, but I promise you, soon everything will change. First, I'll go to your father myself and ask for permission to get married. Secondly, I'll fix all my mistakes. I'll get my ID back and get another job. If necessary, I'll work without any rest at all. I'm serious, and I won't leave you. Don't be afraid." Olivia hugged Paul and accepted her situation. Her dad was strict, but he loved his daughter. She tried to listen to her feelings all the time. It was so strange to realize that she already had a tiny human being under her heart. It was so exciting, and at the same time frightening. Paul was determined. The next day, he took out a small envelope with money from the drawer. The guy had been saving money for a long time. Before he met Olivia, he had a dream to go to the sea. He had been fascinated by the sea since childhood, but he had only seen it in movies, and he wanted to travel so badly. But now everything has changed. Now he needed that money for something else. Paul went to a pawn shop and spent a long time choosing a wedding ring. He spent all his money, but it was so important for him. He wanted to not only give the ring to his fiancée, he decided to go to Olivia's father and ask for his approval. The guy put the ring in the box, got the receipt from the pawn shop, changed his clothes, and went to the bank where Olivia's father worked. As soon as Paul entered the bank, he immediately informed the security guard. "Good afternoon. I need to see Michael. I'm his future son-in-law. I need to talk to him. It's really important." The guard chuckled, looking meticulously at the guy in a plain cotton shirt and jeans, and replied, "Dude, get out of here. I will never believe Michael would choose such a loser for his daughter." Paul felt offended but didn't give up. "I'm not kidding. I'm Olivia's fiancé. Let me in, please. I need to talk to Michael." The guard reluctantly reached for the walkie-talkie. "Michael, there's a guy here who claims to be your daughter's fiancé. Should I let him in or kick him out?" Honestly, I'd choose the second option. But Michael replied, "Bring him to me. I'm curious to see this clown. I haven't had so much fun in a long time." Paul was very frightened because now he would have to confess his feelings for Olivia, and more importantly, that she was already pregnant. The banker looked at the visitor condescendingly. He was an ordinary guy, poor but tidy. He started the conversation first. "How do you know my daughter?" Paul frantically pulled out a box with a ring, opened it, and said solemnly, "My name is Paul. I love your daughter, we are dating, and I am asking your permission for us to get married. Also, Olivia is pregnant, and you are about to become a grandfather." Michael shouted, "What the hell are you talking about, you bastard? Do you think I'm going to believe that she decided to tie her life to a loser like you? You're lying. I don't believe you. You probably stole that ring somewhere, didn't you?" Paul got even more upset and shouted, "Why is money the most important thing in life for all of you? Olivia and I love each other, for real. I bought this ring at a pawn shop an hour ago. Here, take a look. There's even a receipt." The banker took the box in his hands and suddenly froze. He took the ring and whispered, "My God, it's impossible. It's the same ring. It's been so many years." And then the banker said in a hoarse voice, "Give me the address of that pawn shop, and let's talk about the wedding later. I don't have time for that now. Just leave the ring. I really need to solve a mystery connected with it." Paul rejoiced, for he considered it a good sign. If his future father-in-law had taken the ring, it meant that the situation could still be saved. Michael thoughtfully looked at the ring, and his whole life flashed before his eyes. It so happened that Michael married a girl he didn't love. His parents chose for him a fiancée from a wealthy family, Tiffany. She was attractive and well-educated. The man liked her, but nothing more. Tiffany turned out to be an excellent housewife. The house was always cozy and clean. But Michael didn't appreciate what he had. He often yelled at his wife and demanded that she quit her favorite job in the big company and devote all her time only to him. They quarreled all the time. Soon Tiffany got pregnant and Michael was waiting for a boy. He was obsessed with it. But when Tiffany gave birth to a daughter, moreover, a daughter with a lame leg, instead of supporting Tiffany, he began to blame her for everything. "You are a defective woman, Tiffany. You even failed to give birth to a healthy baby. I wanted a son so badly." Tiffany cried and felt resentful, and they distanced themselves from each other even more. Over time, Michael realized he still loved his daughter, even though she was lame. He began to treat her, but still remained very strict both to his wife and to his daughter. Therefore, Olivia always trusted her mom more because Tiffany never scolded her and never tried to make decisions for her daughter. She just loved her and wanted her daughter to be happy. It also made Michael angry. He wanted Olivia to be like him. On that ill-fated day, Tiffany drove somewhere in her car. There were no signs of trouble. The woman was a good driver. Michael arrived home late at night and was shocked to see that his daughter was still with the babysitter and his wife was not home. This had never happened before. The man started calling all the hospitals in the city. He was nervous. He didn't understand what could have happened to his wife. The next day, he got a call from the police. They asked him to come to the morgue to identify the body. Until the last minute, he couldn't believe that Tiffany had died. Moreover, in such a horrible way. She was burned alive. There had been a car accident, and her car had burned down. Michael looked in horror at his wife's body, or rather, at what was left of it. Only now did he realize that he really loved his wife dearly. He just didn't want to admit it. Michael became depressed. He constantly thought about how cruel he was to his beloved woman. So, at the age of 30, Michael became a widower, and his daughter lost her mom. Raising Olivia was now his sole responsibility. This process was not easy for him, because he was constantly at work, and Olivia had to spend all the time with a nanny. The girl lived in luxury. She had the best tutors and attended the best private school. Michael bought her the most expensive clothes and gave her enough money, and he believed it was enough to make her happy. He didn't even notice that Olivia didn't need any of this, that she was tired of living like this. With each passing year, Olivia distanced herself more and more from her own father. After all, He never even tried to understand her, he only did what he thought was right. Since childhood, Olivia cooked very well. She had dreamed of becoming a professional chef, but Michael had different plans. He forced her to go to the University of Law. That's when they had their first big fight. Olivia shouted, "Dad, I can't take it anymore. Why won't you understand me? I never wanted to be a lawyer. It's your dream, not mine. If Mom were alive, she'd support me. I'll run away from home if you don't change your mind." Michael locked his daughter in her room and shouted, "You're the one who doesn't understand anything, silly girl. I wish you nothing but the best. Being a lawyer is a very promising profession. I paid a lot of money to get you into this university. A degree in cooking won't give you anything. You'll be working at a cheap cafeteria for the rest of your life. Besides, you have nowhere to go. You're nothing without my money." Eventually, she gave up and obeyed her father's will. She had almost finished her studies at the university, but she wasn't happy about it. Olivia and Michael became strangers. She didn't even tell him about her relationship with Paul and her pregnancy. The ring Paul brought to Michael was Tiffany's engagement ring. It was custom made. Michael himself came up with the design. Who brought it to the pawn shop? How did strangers even get it? Michael suddenly realized that the day his wife died, there was no ring on her finger. He really needed to find out how his late wife's ring had ended up in the pawn shop. It was the only thing that could help him solve the mystery of Tiffany's death. Michael immediately drove to the pawn shop. "Hello. Today a young guy bought this ring at your pawn shop. Can you tell me where did you get this ring? The thing is, it's my ring. It disappeared years ago. I really need to find the person who brought it to you." At first, the pawn shop worker didn't want to say anything. "Do you really think I still remember it? I have hundreds of people coming in here every day." Michael pounded his fist on the table. "Don't lie. Any customer can return the jewelry within a certain time limit, which means you have their phone number. Tell me who brought you this ring." The pawn shop worker got scared and started searching for information on the computer. "This engagement ring was brought to me by Peter. Write down his phone number. He didn't show up for the ring in time, so I sold it. Peter is a young boy, about 16 years old. He said he needed money fast. I hope you have no more questions for me. Goodbye then." Michael began frantically dialing the phone number. When the boy answered the phone, the man didn't even know what to say. "Good afternoon, Peter. You don't know me, but recently you brought a ring to a pawn shop. Can you tell me, where did you get this ring? I really need to know." The boy instantly dropped the call. Michael tried calling him many more times, but no one answered. It made the man even more angry. Why did this guy react like that to his question? Maybe he stole it somewhere, or was he afraid of something? The banker told his security guards to find this guy. It turned out that the boy lives in the same town where Tiffany went on the day she died. Michael traveled there the next day, even though it was a long journey. Knowing the exact location of the guy, it was not difficult to find the right house. Michael knocked on the door, someone opened it, and he saw Tiffany. She was alive, wearing a beautiful dress. Michael fainted. The man slowly came to his senses and saw some bearded man, Tiffany, a boy and a girl. The woman said, "Lisa, sweetheart, get some water. Peter, open the windows. Oh my goodness, what if he's going to die now?" The girl asked in surprise, "Mom, who is it? Is it your friend? He is definitely not from our town." But Tiffany only said, "I'll explain everything later. Come on, Michael, wake up, say something." The banker whispered, "Are you alive? But how is that possible? You died in that accident. I go to your grave every year. You've been alive all this time and you didn't come home? Why? What about our daughter? Who are all these people? Is this some kind of a nightmare? I don't understand anything at all." The woman sighed. "No, Michael, this is not a nightmare. I live here and these people are my family. My husband Chris, my daughter Lisa, and my son Peter." Michael was shocked. "What about me and Olivia? We are your family and I can't believe it." The woman replied, "Let's go to my room. We have a lot to talk about. I'll tell you everything. Maybe you'll understand me." That day, I was driving to a business meeting. Suddenly, I saw two young girls on the side of the road. One of them was clutching her stomach. I pulled over to see if they needed help. The girl begged me to drive them to the hospital. I didn't even think of anything bad. On the contrary, I sincerely wanted to help this poor girl. The shortest way to the hospital was through the woods. Suddenly, one of the girls started screaming. She felt very sick and asked me to stop the car. I braked sharply. At that very moment, they hit me on the head. I don't remember the rest of it very well. I regained consciousness for a while and I only managed to hide my ring. It was so precious to me. You know how much I loved you. I remember them taking off my jewelry, my bracelet, my earrings, and my expensive fur coat. Then they hit me again and threw me into a ditch. I don't know for how long I was in that ditch. Most likely I would have died if the forester hadn't found me. I came to my senses in his house 3 days later. Chris treated me, fed me, he even brought the doctors here. I had a skull injury, memory loss, and pneumonia. I didn't remember anything about myself at all. Neighbors told me that they found a burnt car at the entrance to the city and a burnt woman in it. But I didn't know it was my car. I didn't remember anything. That's how I ended up living here. Chris already had a son, Peter, and Peter started treating me like his mother. I love them. They've become my family. Chris is a wonderful person. He is an honest, decent, brave man. A year later, my memory came back to me. I realized the burned woman in that car was probably one of the girls who attacked me. I realized that you considered me dead, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should come back. Chris made me a new ID. Now my name is Deborah. There's no Tiffany anymore, so forget me and forgive me if you can. The man was shocked. He looked at Tiffany, the woman he loved madly, and he couldn't believe what he was hearing. But why? Why did you remove me and our daughter from your life? Answer me. I don't understand. You don't care about Olivia at all? Do you really not care about her life? How much she suffered without you? Tiffany looked down at the floor. She felt ashamed. She said quietly, Michael, I beg you, don't say that. I think of her every day. She's my child, and I love her as much as before. But you and I weren't happy. We fought all the time. You never even loved me. We weren't a real family. We were strangers. But things are different with Chris. You may not believe me, but in all these years, we've never had a single fight. There's an inner harmony between us, you know? I'm very happy here. I'm not going back. Don't even ask me to. My family's here. I know I'm guilty. I realize it's been hard for Olivia without me, but I was sure you could handle raising her on your own. Michael replied, It's your decision. But I don't understand why the ring ended up in the pawn shop. Why did your stepson bring it there? Tiffany got very sad and began to tell her story. Chris and I have a daughter. Her name is Lisa, but she is very ill. She has cancer and needs surgery, but it's very expensive. We have been waiting for free surgery for a year, but we can't wait any longer. The girl is already very weak. She can't even go to school. So I decided to sell the ring out of desperation. I asked Peter to take the ring to a pawn shop, but they tricked him and gave him a very small amount of money for such an expensive ring. Now we are saving money on everything. Peter even got a job to help his sister. I'm afraid I won't be able to help her in time. Tiffany cried quietly, covering her face with her hands. Michael almost cried too. His jealousy, anger, and resentment were gone. He realized that Tiffany was right. It was his own fault. He was cruel. He constantly blamed her for everything, and that was the only reason she had decided not to return to them. But in spite of everything, he wanted to help her. Michael asked quietly, How much does this surgery cost? I want to help. I've worked hard all my life, but I've never done a single good deed in my entire life. Tiffany couldn't believe it. She cried again. Are you really going to help? Even though I didn't come back to you and fell in love with another man? Thank you so much. I will be eternally grateful to you. And forgive me for everything if you can. Michael was sitting with his head down. It was as if he was mentally saying goodbye to his beloved woman. Then he said, I'm not going to say anything to our daughter. I don't want her to worry. We can't change anything now. So be happy, Tiffany. Let's remain friends. I'll help Lisa. Send me the payment details and the amount. I'll pay for it. By the way, do you know what Olivia did? She started dating some poor guy. Recently, he came to me and asked for my permission to marry her. Moreover, she is pregnant. I'm so mad. When I get home, I'm going to punish her. I found a suitable fiancé for her, but she says she doesn't love him. She's never listened to me in anything since she was a child." Tiffany looked intently at her ex-husband and said, "You haven't changed at all, Michael. Aren't you afraid you'll lose Olivia too? I've suffered so much because you never listened to me and never tried to understand me. Don't you realize that everyone is different? People may have an opinion that doesn't match yours. It's such a blessing that she will have a baby. Be wise. Try to understand your daughter. Maybe this guy isn't as bad as you think." "How dare you give me advice? You abandoned your daughter and you're not even interested in her life. I raised our daughter alone, and I will decide what is best for her." Tiffany covered her face with her hands and cried quietly. "It's time for you to go, Michael. Goodbye. I don't need anything from you. I will pray for you and our daughter, and I hope you will make the right decision." Michael ran out of the house in a rage without even saying goodbye. He was very angry. The banker went to a restaurant and ordered a bottle of whiskey, trying to drown out the anger and resentment inside him. It seemed to him that his dearest people had betrayed him. Michael didn't remember how long he spent in the restaurant, but the waiter's voice brought him out of his stupor. "Excuse me, it's late. The restaurant closes in half an hour. Maybe I should call you a cab. You should not drive in this condition." But Michael shouted, "So, I'm perfectly fine. Leave me alone." Michael didn't call a cab, but instead he walked home for the first time in years. It was raining outside. He walked through the mud and cried loudly. He had never allowed himself such weakness before. He thought about family life with Tiffany again. He still remembered how her eyes had sparkled, how tenderly she had embraced him, how she had cherished their family no matter what. But he didn't notice anything. He just kept scolding her for no reason. He lacked passion and emotions. He demanded something that she couldn't give him. Over the years of living with him, her eyes had faded. But today, he saw a really happy woman, except that she was no longer looking at him with love. It was not her fault that Chris had saved her, that she had fallen in love with him. Now Michael had only one dear person, Olivia. She tried to talk to him so many times, but he wouldn't listen. Tiffany's right. His daughter was already hiding everything from him and treating her father like a stranger, and now he was about to lose her. There was a tremendous transformation going on inside Michael. When Michael finally reached his house, he looked like a dirty stray dog. Olivia paced nervously up and down the street with her cell phone in her hand. When she saw her father, she immediately rushed over to him. "Daddy, where have you been? What happened to you? Are you drunk? What happened? I was so worried. Hurry up, let's go inside. You need to warm up." Olivia had never seen her father like this. There was a look of doom and longing in his eyes. Suddenly, the man said quietly, "Olivia, I know everything. Paul came to my bank today and told me you're pregnant." Olivia turned pale and was even more frightened, imagining what was about to happen. She asked in a trembling voice, "Is that why you got so drunk? I know you're against it, but I love Paul. I don't need anyone but him." Michael realized that Olivia could really leave and he would be left all alone. He hugged his daughter tenderly for the first time in his life and said sincerely, "You know, I'm shocked, but I don't mind. I'm happy I'm going to have a grandchild. If you really love Paul, I have no right to tell you what to do. It's your life. Why don't you invite Paul over for dinner? I want to get to know him better." Olivia couldn't believe what she was hearing. "You really don't mind, Daddy. Thank you. Tomorrow, me and Paul will come over for dinner together, but promise me you won't mock him. He's a humble, ordinary guy. But I love him. You have no idea how happy I am that you've accepted my choice." Michael stroked Olivia's head, just like when she was a child, and said, "Everything is going to be different now, sunshine. I promise." The next morning, Michael woke up with a severe headache. The man saw a glass of water and a headache pill on the nightstand. Olivia had taken care of it. The man took the medicine and went to take a shower. Olivia was already waiting for him in the kitchen. "Good morning, Daddy. How are you? I made you breakfast. You need to eat." Michael was so pleased that his daughter was taking care of him. She looked so happy. Olivia looked into his eyes and asked anxiously, "Daddy, do you remember our conversation? Can I invite Paul over? I hope you haven't changed your mind." Michael smiled. "Of course, I remember everything. Invite him over tonight. I have to leave for a while right now. It's very important. I have to fix one mistake." First, the man drove to the bank. He withdrew a large sum of money from his bank account and drove to Tiffany's house again. This time, Chris opened the door for him. He was clearly not happy to have a visitor. "Why did you come again?" Tiffany cried all night. Her blood pressure skyrocketed, and we even had to call a doctor. "She apologized to you yesterday. Stop torturing her. Do you have any idea how hard it was for her to make that decision? I love Tiffany. I cherish my family, and I won't let anyone ruin it. Please go away." Michael understood why Chris was angry. Yesterday, he had said a lot of unnecessary things to the woman. The banker took money out of his bag, handed it to Chris, and said, "This is for Lisa, take it. Also, tell Tiffany I forgive her. Here's my business card. If you need help, call me anytime." Chris didn't want to accept help from his wife's ex-husband, but their situation was desperate, and this money could save his daughter's life. He took the money and shook Michael's hand sincerely. "Thank you, Michael. You are saving us. I will be eternally grateful to you." Michael left with a sense of relief. It was so pleasant to do good deeds. He sincerely wanted Lisa to get well. Olivia had been fussing all day. She cooked a delicious dinner and cleaned the whole house. Paul arrived at 7 o'clock in the evening. He was also very nervous. He bought a beautiful bouquet of flowers for his beloved and a bottle of champagne. Paul was afraid that he would not be able to keep up small talk and Michael would mock him. But to his surprise, Olivia's father politely greeted him, shook his hand, and invited him to the table. Paul opened the champagne, and Michael said, "Nice to meet you, Paul. Don't worry, I haven't lost your ring. If my daughter has chosen you, I will accept you as a family member, and I will be happy to have a grandchild. Make my daughter happy, and I'll help you. Tell me about yourself, Paul. What do you do?" At this point, the guy got really scared. He was sure that after the banker found out everything, he would immediately change his mind and kick him out. However, Paul didn't hide anything. He didn't want to lie. To Paul and Olivia's surprise, Michael only said sternly, "Paul, the first thing you need to do is to recover your ID. I'll help you with both your IDs and a good job. Where do you plan to live? If you want, you can stay at my house. I'll be happy." Paul replied bravely, "If you help me with my ID, I would be very grateful, but Olivia and I will live separately. I realize my house is very small, and at first, it will be hard for Olivia. But still, I want to achieve something on my own. I'm really motivated now. I promise to love and care for your daughter. You won't regret accepting me into the family." Everyone enjoyed dinner, then had tea with cake and praised Olivia. "Sweetheart, I've never had such a delicious cake." Olivia smiled, for her dad had never praised her like that before. She said, "Daddy, I want to work as a chef so badly. It's been my dream since I was a child. I'll finish the University of Law, but then when give birth to a baby, I'll go to study to be a pastry chef. What do you think about it?" Michael smiled. "I don't mind. Do whatever you want. I won't force you to do anything ever again. Every person has a different path in life. Too bad I was too late to realize that." "It's never too late, Daddy. I'm so glad you heard me. Things will be different now. We'll see each other often. I wish my mom was here with us. She would have been happy for me." Michael could barely keep himself from telling Olivia the whole truth. "Yeah, you are right, but you should know that she always loved you more than anyone else." Olivia's ex-boyfriend, Arthur, found out she was marrying some penniless guy, and Michael was supporting her. The guy was furious. He didn't love Olivia, but Paul ruined his plans. Arthur decided to get revenge on Paul. Paul was coming home from work late at night. Arthur and his friends were waiting for him in a dark alley. At first, he just threatened the guy. "Listen to me, loser. Olivia was my fiancée until you came into her life. You ruined all my plans, and now you're going to pay for it." Paul immediately realized that there was no way to avoid a fight. He put the grocery bag on the ground and said, "You want to fight? Okay, but let's do it fair, one-on-one." But Arthur immediately called out to his friends, and 3 guys attacked Paul. He fought back for a long time, but one of the attackers pulled out a knife. Paul fell to the ground and blood appeared under his shirt. Fortunately, his neighbor, an elderly lady, was walking her dog there and noticed the wounded guy. She recognized Paul and immediately ran to Olivia, dialing the emergency services on the way. She pounded on the door and shouted, "Olivia, open the door! Paul has been killed! Oh, what grief! He's outside, covered in blood! Olivia rushed outside. She screamed and called for help, holding Paul's head in her hands and crying, "Paul, my love, you can't die. You can't leave me alone." An ambulance arrived, and they immediately took the guy to the emergency room. Olivia went with them. She held her fiancé's hand and prayed for only one thing, that he would survive. On the way, the girl called her father. "Daddy, we're in trouble. Someone attacked Paul. He is wounded. I am going with him to the hospital now. Please come. I am so scared. I will not be able to survive his death." Michael immediately got out of bed and shouted, "Darling, calm down. I'm coming. Everything is going to be okay. Don't panic." The surgery went on for 5 hours. Then the doctor came out and said, "The injury is very serious. We've done everything we could. We put the guy in a coma, otherwise he won't survive. You have to pray, but honestly, there's very little chance of recovery." Olivia cried out and began to lose consciousness. Doctors immediately ran to her, and Michael shouted, "Help her! She's pregnant! Do something!" Olivia almost had a miscarriage due to severe stress and had to stay in hospital for several weeks. Fortunately, they managed to save the baby. But Paul was still in a coma. As soon as Olivia was allowed to get up, she immediately came to his room and whispered something to him for a long time. "Paul, you have to wake up, please. I've never loved anyone like I love you. We're going to have a baby boy. He's waiting for you too. When you get better, we'll get married. Come on, my love, open your eyes, look at me." She whispered it like a mantra. The doctors were surprised, but 24 hours later, Paul woke up. The guy told them who had attacked him. Michael was furious because Arthur was the prosecutor's son. It turned out that this insolent bastard was not afraid of anything at all. The banker decided to make the case public. The police quickly found the bastards, but they didn't even try to hide because they were sure of their impunity. Fortunately, they were given a fair punishment and ended up in jail. Now, Paul and Olivia loved each other even more and cherished every minute spent together. Olivia's pregnancy was not easy, but everything ended well. She gave birth to a wonderful baby boy, Alex. Olivia was afraid it would be difficult for her to live with the baby in a small, shabby house, especially since Paul was now often away on business trips, but she was wrong. On the contrary, their neighbors always helped her with everything. After a while, Olivia and Paul got married. They weren't rich, but they were happy. This peaceful family happiness was more important to Olivia than money. She had no regrets that she tied her life to Paul because they sincerely loved each other. Soon, Paul earned enough money and they bought a nice, spacious house. They visited Michael every weekend, and he enjoyed spending time with his grandson. It turned out that love for a grandson was something special, something tender and kind. Lisa underwent a successful surgery and was gradually recovering. Tiffany didn't leave her daughter for a minute and called Michael right from the hospital. She was crying and whispering, "Thank you, Michael. My daughter survived. You are a wonderful person and a real man. I am so grateful to you." "How is Olivia doing? Has she already given birth to the baby?" The man replied, "Yes, you have become a grandmother. Congratulations. Now you have a grandson, Alex. He's so cute. I'll send you a picture of him." "Thank you, Tiffany. Our meeting changed me, changed my life. I've realized a lot of things. You're right, once I stopped controlling Olivia, she started to trust me. We are best friends now. We call each other every day. On weekends, she and Paul come to visit me. Paul is a nice guy. He works so hard for his family. I respect him a lot." Tiffany said, "Come visit us whenever you want, Michael. And let's be friends. Many years have passed, and there are no hard feelings between us anymore. Michael, I really want to apologize to Olivia, but I don't know how she'll react. How do you think? Should I do it?" Michael replied, "Let Alex grow up a little bit first. I don't even know what to say, Tiffany. But I don't think it's worth bringing it all up again. Olivia's already a mom, she's happy, and her husband loves her madly, so let's not change anything.